jumping Jehoshaphat. Today I'm going to show you how to change the rear brake caliper on a 2005 Duramax Chevy Silverado American Infidel Edition. Whew, that was a little over the top. Step 1, break the lug nuts loose. Step 2, jack that junk up. Step 3, take the lug nuts off and pull this big dumb wheel off. Maybe. Here we go. Okay, let's talk about what's going on here for a minute. This was supposed to be an easy brake caliper change. Typically, on these trucks, you would grab a T55 and you would loosen up these caliper bolts. And then you would leave this bracket actually on the rear axle. If you have to take that bracket off, use an 18mm wrench or socket and you screw out these two bolts that hold on this bracket. Now, the problem here is the customer, you can see it, has let the rotor totally wear away to nothing on one side. So, see how the piston's pushed all the way out? That's why it started leaking. Which develops another problem. Now I gotta take the pads out, put this bracket back on, screw these bolts back in, and then use my T55 to get the caliper broke loose. I didn't know what size it was, so I went ahead and took the whole thing off, and I tried to use my impact to make it easier to take off. Well, it's not working out, so I gotta bolt it back on after I push the pistons back in and try it again. Okay, I went ahead and beat this brake rotor off, and you can tell it's junk on the inside. So now, I went ahead and bolted the bracket back on. And now I can use my T55 to get in here on this caliper. Son of a... There, what do you think of that? I'm gonna have to take this thing off and put it in a vise. Finally got that brake caliper apart. But on the way back, I noticed that there are two bald eagles up in a tree, which is rare because you never see them together. They're just hanging out over the river. Alright, so I finally got a brake rotor, and before you go to the parts store for a brake rotor, make sure you measure this hole for the hub. There's two different sizes. They don't differ by much, but you still need to measure it, or take the old one with you. And then use brake cleaner and clean the pad surface off. It's got oil on it. And then I touched it and put more oil back on it. Next, the brake pads come with this new piece the brake pads slide on. And while I don't really think I need it, these ones kind of look kind of rough, so I'll go ahead and peel them off. Just like that. Put the new one on like so. I don't know this for sure that this is recommended, but I do this because brake pads actually move a lot in a vehicle. They have to move back and forth on that caliper bracket. So I put on just a little bit of high temp grease and Hopefully it stays on there. I don't know. It probably just collects dirt and makes the problem even worse. But where I put it at. Not a bunch, because you don't want to end up on your brake rotor or in your brake pad. So I just realized something. When I'm putting this caliper bracket back on, look how close you are to the leaf spring. I cannot get the actual caliper bolt back in the hole once I get the caliper ready. So I gotta take this bracket back off and put it all together as one piece. So I did all that work to get those caliper bolts out. Then I go to take the new caliper out of the box. And it comes with a new caliper bracket already installed. All I've got to do is put my brake pads on and throw it on the vehicle. Okay, you still got to take the caliper bolts out because you still have to put brake pads on it. Not greased up yet. I'll have to do that. I got some grease on, but not enough. Okay. How does this go? Good. One of these days I'll figure it out. Oh, look at that. Now, put this junk back on. Oh my gosh. I feel like a monkey fornicating a football right now. Once your bolts are back in, grab your 18mm. Okay, the new caliper comes with this banjo bolt and new copper washers. You'll take your old one out, you put your new one in with a copper washer on the top of the line and one at the bottom of the line. Screw it back into your caliper. Okay, for those of you that haven't normally messed with big tires, this is the easiest way to put them back on. Put your foot under one side, pry bar in the other hand. It's way easier than trying to lift it. I know I put these lug nuts on with a 1/2 inch drive impact, but always go back over it with your breaker bar or torque wrench preferably and socket. Alright, to bleed these brakes, you get one of your buddies. I mean, a good buddy, not one of those meth head neighbors you got. And you crack the bleeder loose and you yell, "Down!" And it squirts all over you, and then you tighten it back up before he gets to the floor. Then up, down, up, down. And if it looks like there's air coming out, you stop, or you keep going, but you got clear fluid like that coming out, then you're good. Move on to the next one. Start from the farthest away from the master cylinder and work your way up. Make sure the truck has brakes. Oh, he went the other way. I thought I was going to watch him drive off into the sunset.